we came up with it, and answer any questions.
Yeah, and they've been given a copy of all the recommendations that the subcommittee came up with. The whole, the 3-page document, 4 pages.
They're gonna have that?
They already have that, so.
Okay.
So, you don't have to go through the whole thing, you can just kind of summarize what
Right.
you went through and then focus on the recommendations.
Right.
All right?
Thanks for doing that,
I
Earl.
appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, guys, it's 2 o'clock. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Thanks for everyone being here. Welcome again to Carol Phillips. Raise your hand, Carol, so that all the committee members know who you are, know what your face looks like. Errol Lawson. I know this is the first time you guys have been in person, and then Ross Garner. So again, welcome to you guys. We've been doing Zoom meetings since April, and we've never been in the same room together to my knowledge, so welcome. Appreciate everyone being here today.
Do you mind if I jump in? Just real quick, with the masks and everything, if you kind of turn your head and lean back, the people at home are probably not gonna hear you. Try and talk straight into it. You can hear yourself. You wanna make sure you're audible, but if you're sitting back, we're probably not gonna catch you, on the microphone. So just make sure you try and face the microphone and speak clearly.
Turn it on.
And you gotta make sure you have the green button on.
Thank you. Okay, so first thing on the agenda is any additions or deletions to the agenda that's in front of you? Okay, we need approval of the previous meeting minutes. Can we get a first and a second on the minutes from last month?
I'd like to approve the minutes from last. Second.
Okay, minutes approved. All right, Tom, we'll turn it back over to you if you have any comments or questions or concerns.
Just a couple updates regarding the POA. Compared to prior year to date, last year compared to this year, our activity card sales, now last year it was called the photo ID card, but our activity card sales are up 41%, which is really amazing. When we did the 2020 plan, and I at that time during the speeches, I had thought we might increase by 10 to 15%, but 41% is outstanding. Member Services also reports that guest passes being issued has increased 90%, with a lot of those on the lakes being used by people on the lakes. That's a huge increase. Boat registrations are up 18% over prior year. Golf rounds are up 15,300 over prior year. So very active. We're very pleased with those numbers. Also, wanted to reference that I've received a number of emails from property owners. They're hearing that the lakes are open to the public, and I wanted to share some information regarding that. And Rick and his team prepared these numbers. And so here's some, just some hard facts. Last year, between January and August, our Lakes and Parks Rangers removed 1,354 non-members from our lakes. This year, we've removed 3,680. That's an increase of 2,323 people over prior year. So those are clear facts, and that our rangers are being very aggressive and are holding the commitments that were made with the 2020 plan. We have had some exceptions that have come through this committee, such as the kayak demo day and the kids fishing tournament, but those are few and far between. The rangers are being very aggressive in removing people. Also, what's encouraging is we're starting to see the numbers of people, non-members that are being removed, actually start to come down. I think it's the latter portion of the season, but I also interpret that as I think the word is starting to get out. You start getting kicked off the lake a couple times, you stop going there. So I'm very encouraged by that. But just want to make sure we stick to the facts, and the facts are we've seen a significant increase in the number of people removed from our lakes. And I want to share that with the committee. That was it. Any questions?
The 14 or 15,000 rounds of golf that are increased, is that off a base of what? On a percentage basis, what would that be?
Oh, that's it's about a 25% increase.
Okay.
We're seeing a lot of, the bulk of the increase is coming from members that don't have annual memberships. So pay-as-you-play members, that's 10,000 of the 15,000 is coming from those individuals. And a lot of those individuals are playing Brittany. We're seeing Brittany rounds, and that's the golf course that if you have the activity card, you can play for free, you get free green fees. Rounds at that golf course are up 4,000 over prior year. But the pay-as-you-play members is the largest portion of that increase. Very impressive. So to me, that tells us that the 2020 plan is working. Hard to say how much of an impact. There's some people that argue that our golf rounds are up because of COVID, and I have heard other people that have said our golf rounds are potentially suppressed because of COVID. So it's really hard to, you really can't know, but it's been probably 10 years since we last said that golf rounds are up. So regardless of the cause, I'm happy that golf rounds are up.
Thanks, Tom, very much.
Yeah.
Sandy, do you have anything to say or add? Okay, welcome. Good to see you in person finally also. With that, there are no other board liaisons in the room. I'm going to go over to Rick.
We do have them on the screen.
Oh, we do have them on the screen. So are there any other board member comments?
No, this is Jerry Barron.
Okay.
I'm good. Mary Sinkus.
Hi, Mary. So no comments?
No.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks for the reminder, Tom. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rick Eccles for his report.
Tom did steal some of my thunder. I was going to report some of those great numbers as well. Maybe I should do it again just for effect, but I'll refrain.
Rick's mic is not on.
Sorry. Okay, I'll skip the joke then. The Lake Rayburn drawdown is still planned as scheduled. Start day is November the 9th. We aim to have it down by the 4th of December, and we'll start refilling it by March 1st. That's not to say that it will be full by March 1st, but we'll start March 1st. Typically, it's taken anywhere from 2 weeks to a month to get it back to full pool. So I'll skip those great numbers, and we'll go to Paul. Last month, Paul Bickford had asked that we go a little deeper in reporting our violations on the lakes. And so I picked the top 3 violations for July and August, and they were boats not being registered. We wrote 50 warnings for that in July, 38 in August. Wake violations, this would be both the 100-foot rule and the 200-foot rule, and also violations in areas that are just closed to wakes. In July, we were at 18, and August we were at 30. And skiing or pulling tubes outside of skiing areas, we were 15 both in July and August. So, in addition to that, we have just hired a new grounds maintenance worker. He's actually started today, and his first official duty was to listen to Tom give his yearly talk. And he is also a full-time student studying IT, but he's doing everything online, so working with us doesn't crimp his style at all. Getting into the Lake Ranger contacts a little bit more as well. In let's see, in August, we had 2,878 contacts, 202 people removed. Boat contacts were at 673, and hours spent on boats was 198. And I challenged the guys to do a little bit more on the water, and I think that that showed over the Labor Day weekend. But it's actually harder to get your numbers up, your contact numbers up on the water. They actually run into more people going to the access points and the parking lots and that kind of thing. So the contacts are actually down for August, but the number of contacts on the water are up. So I wanted to make that clear. Again, they've been concentrating on wake violations on the 3 wake lakes, Ann, Windsor, and Loman. Let's see. We continue to have a lot of issues with downed trees on trails and in the lakes. Grounds maintenance is working on that on a weekly basis. We are continuing to work on the London Landing kayak rack. We finished 2 kayaks at Pontoon Park, and we've asked that the folks at London move their kayaks to Pontoon while we replace that rack. So that's ongoing. We conducted our wake boat testing yesterday, our second round of that. A lot of you folks were there, and appreciate all the help that everyone gave. And we're going to be studying the results of this over the next month or so. It's going to require a lot of video monitoring and editing and putting things together, but we should have something to present at next month's meeting. In our fisheries and lake ecology department, we actually had 2 kids fishing derbies, one on August 7th and one on the 14th. We had a total of 49 kids participating, and our actual surplus fish from that event are going to be transferred to our lakes, so the membership will get another chance at those. E. coli testing over the course of the summer has been good, all summer, good results. Thought I would report that since the beach season is over. Aquatic weed control continues on Loch Lomond. We should be nearing the end of the season. Our last complaint came in last year on September the 16th, so I expect only about another week of that. To try to alleviate the problem going forward, we stock grass carp on a yearly basis, and we feel like we've lost some of those over the spillway in the last couple of years. So we've already stocked fish this spring. We haven't had any high water events since then to speak of, but we're going to stock again this fall. We're going to stock next year's fish this fall because we anticipate a sizable price increase as of January the 1st. So that'll be a money savings for us, and we've got surplus in my budget this year to take care of that. Let's see. The 3 big lakes will be stocked this fall with blue catfish. They haven't been stocked in 3 or 4 years. These fish are they get quite large. 50, 60 pounds is not uncommon, and I think fish of that size have been caught here in the past. We're not stocking very many. They can have impacts on the other fish, but we do like to have a few of those around to put some pressure on the gizzard shad, and to also offer an additional fishing experience for people. So that'll occur this October. And also we're going to stock all the lakes with channel catfish, which have also been a couple years since they've been stocked. And we're also preparing for intensive fall fish sampling. We put things off this spring because the COVID thing was a little bit unknown. We didn't know how much of a danger we were putting each other in by working in close quarters. So we're going to do that work this fall in addition to our fall netting work that we always do. So we'll have a busy fall. And of course, we're all working on our budgets at this point. And that's it.
Yeah, Rick, I have a question.
Yes.
How about the fish cleaning station at Grant? How's that?
The fish cleaning station at Granton, they were working on it today. I anticipate power to that and being able to use it by the weekend.
Oh, great.
Rick, a question. There was an article in this week's Vista about stopping non-property owners from hunting on POA property, and it referenced maybe using lake rangers to help enforce that. Is that
Yes.
take away from the lakes, or is that more of an
Well,
off-season activity that?
It's kind of an off-season activity anyway. The season doesn't open until the end of this month, and to be honest, most hunters don't get started until the temperature drops a little bit and the mosquitoes are somewhat less. But we have savings in our budget, and I'm going to be able to keep on a fourth ranger through the season. It's a little bit unknown right now how we're going to monitor hunting, but it sounds like we're potentially going to ask hunters to register with member services that they're participating in that activity. And then that way we can, if someone reports a suspicious truck parked in their neighborhood, and we can at least look them up and verify that they're supposed to be doing
Okay,
that
I was just
activity.
concerned it'd take them away from their other duties.
Potentially, but as we go deeper into the season, fishing and lake use falls at about the same pace that hunting activities pick up.
Okay.
So shouldn't be a big deal.
Just directionally, Rick, I was wondering, it looks like we're too close here. How many hours a week are you saying that the rangers are actually on the water versus the ground?
So earlier in the season, they were averaging around 40 hours a week actually on the water. I challenged them to get that number up to 60 hours, and since then they've been in the neighborhood of 60 to 80 hours a week.
Yeah, I guess I would say I'd appreciate that, and even if it's less context from my perspective, I'd rather personally have them on the water. I think it's a safety, it's an ambassador piece, but yeah, the more we can put them out there, and I'm not sure how many lakes they're physically really actively covering on the water, but
The three big lakes, Loman, I mean, we try to divide lake time up kind of by size of lake, so number of ranger hours per acre of lake. So the smaller lakes see less activity from our rangers, but we do get around. We have a boat that we trailer, and we will assign the no wake lakes to a shift, and that person will make the tour of all the small lakes and get all those get some time on all those a couple times a week.
and I assume we're indexed to weekends and holidays and
Weekends
drop down
and
during
weekends
the-
and holidays is when we see the activity on the wake lakes. It's where there's the potential for safety issues, and that's when we beef up presence. Yeah. Mhm.
One more question. The stock that was put in the Metfield Lake, are you gonna move some of that?
Yes, we got, so this is the second year we've had that event at that Metfield pond, and I know there's some after hours fishing that goes on, but the lake is just full of catfish at this point, and we give the golf maintenance crew feed, and they feed them, and so at this point they're big and there's a lot of them. And so we are this fall, when the weather cools, gonna net some of those and move them to the lakes. So we've satisfied. Arkansas Game and Fish donates those fish to us, and by having an event, we have satisfied their requirement. So at this point, we're free to do with them as we please.
Rick,
Yes,
Um,
yes.
Question, I continue to hear from various people about algae and plants growing in the water and so on. And I don't remember if there's been a piece that's published in the Vista that would help explain what's good and what's not so good and what you guys are doing. Maybe a little PR piece could be helpful. I don't remember if one has been published recently or not.
Not in the Vista. We monthly will have something during the growing season. We'll have something in the Sporting Update.
Right.
But the Vista is another avenue.
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of these people wouldn't be reading the Sporting Update
Right.
per se.
Right.
And since you're going to all the trouble to put those numbers together and everything,
Yeah.
maybe Keith Bryant from the Vista or somebody could,
Definitely.
talk with you about.
At this point, going into the fall, I don't know how much bang we would get for a buck now, but next April would be a great timing for that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I try to explain to people that you guys are on top of it and working hard to make it all good.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking that might be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
Hey, Grace, do you want to also mention the fish cleaning station at Lake
Oh.
Norwood, the issue while we have Rick?
Oh, sure. I don't know if this is unique to Norwood or not, but over the summer in particular, people are using the cleaning station as sort of a garbage dump and not cleaning up after themselves, and just constantly things just thrown in the sink, and cigarettes from fishing line, and pop cans, and you name it.
I
And
found
so
a
Rick,
kid's fishing pole in there the
yeah.
last time I checked.
Yeah, and Rick Eckles and I have, been in touch on this to try to figure out what's going on. And there was a while where the pump was not working properly, but I was up there on Monday and it seems to be working okay now, which is great. And you mentioned in an email to me that you're going to have your guys keep an eye on
Yes.
the station. And are those lake rangers or are they other maintenance guys?
The grounds maintenance guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Because I want to make sure it wasn't taking away from the lake ranger,
No.
time. But, and I didn't have any feedback from anyone else saying that there were issues on other lakes. So.
That station probably gets less use than any.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's not operational or it's full of trash, we don't hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
So your diligence about checking that out this spring has caused us to take a look and get it working again.
Yeah, I mean, it all seems to be fine, and I
Yeah.
just didn't know if that was an issue on other lakes or not, or if Norwood's kind of special in that regard.
Yeah, and maybe the placement of a trash can close by might help too. We'll look into that.
And I did, just FYI, have a couple high school girls who were out there sunning on Monday complaining because they couldn't charge their cell phones. So I said, well, don't worry, don't use it for charging your cell phones.
Okay.
Rick, can we talk, I want to make sure we know that, first of all, for the inspectors, the people that are inspecting the parks every week, that we know, that we emphasize that, the inspection of the fish cleaning stations, but can you clarify where they're all located? There's one going into Granton, one on Norwood. Where else are they?
Yeah, one on Rayburn. There's one at the Lake Ann access ramp. There's one at London Landing on Lake Windsor. And those are the two that historically we've had issues with during the season when there's a lot of fish being cleaned. Those are the ones that have historically been a problem because we could empty out the containers and then somebody come an hour later and fill them back up, and then we're not there to check until the next day. But we've made some progress there with keeping animals out of that waste. that we gave Phil Ward an award for his ideas and about cleaning those stations up, and it's working really well. There's a fish cleaning station at the marina on Loch Lomond, at the Fly Tire Fishing Dock. What am I missing? We have, okay, Brittany, yeah, there's a fish cleaning station there. I believe we have one at all the lakes, and
So that's 7.
and we'll have 2 on Lomond when we get this one complete.
And then Kelly, is it on the checklist for park inspections? Is there a line item for fish cleaning station functionality and cleaning? Because if there isn't, that's, yeah, if there isn't, it should be. It should be both functionality and cleanliness. And I guess we really should recognize this as a financial burden for the POA. Well, I don't know if burden's the right word, but it does cost manpower and money to maintain them.
Yeah,
Which is a
I
good
also, while we're on this subject, the fish cleaning station at Norwood is working beautifully now, but there are 3 different switches that have to be turned on for the pump to work, and it's not intuitive unless you're an engineer or an IT guy.
Right.
And I don't know if that's the setup on other lakes too. My only thought would be, this is an expense and a pain, but
To try to simplify that
a
a bit.
little simple sign that says,
Mhm.
turn this switch on, turn that switch off, or whatever.
Yeah.
It might just make it easier, and maybe people would do a better job of cleaning,
Right.
you know.
Any more questions for Rick?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment back to the lake lowering at Lake Rayburn. It's been, I don't think we've ever done it before, and I
Not
think
on
we
Rayburn.
have at least 100 docks and lake walls that are on that lake. And I'm wondering what all the people that need to have work done are gonna do to find a contractor to help them out. Now, Errol and I have located one gentleman, and his name is Alan Huffman,
Mhm.
and he's been highly recommended. And fortunately, I've already made contact with him. But do you know
So,
of any other contacts?
Yeah, yes, and we can probably add this to the website. But we keep a list of contractors that have done work on the lakes. We want to make sure that it's known that we're not endorsing any one person.
Right.
That's for the individual to vet, but that's something that we can make available.
Fantastic. That'll be
Yeah.
a big help to a lot of people.
So just to answer your question on the fish cleaning stations, it's just listed under docks. And the question is, fish cleaning stations, okay, needs work, what's your comments? So,
Okay, any more questions for Rick before we move on? Any comments from John Urquhart or Trey Anson, if you guys are on Zoom meeting?
Rick covered it all for me. Frank.
Okay. Trey, you got anything?
Nope, everything's going super smooth down here.
Okay, thanks. Okay, on old business, I have the 2021 budget recommendations, and Tammy was nice enough to make a copy and put it on the back sheet of your agenda, along with going on to the next page. I think we're either overdue or we're due this month, so I haven't gotten much feedback from the group. The list has basically been modified from years past and kind of broken into, must-dos and then nice-to-dos. So if nobody has any other comments or additions to that, I think that will be our final recommendation to Rick and his group.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Please. Tom or Rick, has there been any discussion of the location of additional parking at Lake Avalon?
You mean by the beach? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, well, at the park or,
At the park.
Yes.
We have talked about it. No decision has been made. One of the thought process was to potentially, where the grass was removed and we put in the additional parking 3 years ago, potentially taking some more grass out and continuing along that same line. That was one idea that was floated. But no, I'm not really giving you a good answer other than we've talked about the possibility of adding some additional parking, but no final decision has been made and no plans have been drawn up, and we haven't even decided where we're going to put it.
thank you very much. I was just curious.
I don't know if you can thank me for that answer because it's really not very specific.
No, but.
I think we also briefly talked about the upper area, that little pull-off area. But it's kind of far away from the action, and I mean, it might be a good overflow area, but
Well, there's some concerns about, for erosion and having a green space between residential areas
mhm.
and parking. A lot of people, that would be their view, would be cars. But your thought, when you're talking about the space, are you talking by the entrance?
Yeah, when you come into the entrance, you take a right, which goes to the boat ramp. And as you come along that road on the left-hand side is where we added the additional parking. That was one thought to put it there. We're trying to be cognizant of the homeowners. When we put in the beach and the playground equipment, the original plan was to have the playground equipment on that upper grassy area. And then we realized, that was going to be way too close to homes. And so we moved it to the lower section because we didn't want it too close, because kids have fun and they scream and shout and everything. So we are trying to be cognizant to limit the impact to the local residents.
Great, thank you.
If you go over there when it's busy, a lot of people do park on the grass. Do we ask them to move, or do we just kind of let them do that?
Yeah, some of them, sometimes they make their own parking.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the best area, although Rick's guys don't necessarily like that because then it makes it harder for them to grow grass in that area. At some point, we're going to have to add some additional parking. We know that. The good news is that we have an amenity, the beach and the boat launch, that is frequented so much that we have a lot of people that want to use it. That's good news. Bad news is we don't have enough parking, and parking lots are not cheap. So we have to be very careful where we add the additional parking.
Well, just a thought, since we're on that topic. Bowlington Road is across from the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the POA owns 47 acres there.
Yeah, there's that dirt area, that dirt road that kind of goes quite a ways back there. We do own some flat land in that area. I am a little bit concerned about drainage and flooding in that section.
It does flood really bad.
I don't, none of that area is very flat to start with. So
Well, the entrance is reasonable, but once you get back there,
when you're right, just off to the left of the entrance, yeah.
And the 44 acres is actually, if you look at the GIS map, it actually includes just about everything, all the fingers that go all over the place. So it's a little bit deceptive in the number of acres that it is, and what's usable and what's not usable.
Right, I understand.
I would want to keep the parking closer to the beach. I would prefer not to have kids crossing the road, because
That's
that
a good
road
point.
can get a little bit busy, and you can pick up some speed going down that hill.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I guess that'll also be a trailhead when that trail opens.
No, it's not going to be a trailhead because there is the trail.
There's the bridge that
There's
goes
a bridge
over
that
the
goes over
hill.
there, but we didn't want a trailhead because what we don't want to do is, we're already busy enough. If we add mountain bikers there, that's just going to be too much traffic. And then we don't want to have, the beach is for our members. The boat launch is for our members. And if we combine a trailhead, which is open to the public, with, you can do this, but you can't do this, that gets way too confusing. So we don't want to have a trailhead there to keep it separated.
You may have members that park there to get on the trail.
Well, yeah, there's members that park just about everywhere to get on the trail. But we're trying to keep that separated.
And at least in my way of thinking, not just for that beach area, but for a lot of the areas, I think we need a little bit more time to understand if we're actually seeing a trend where we're going to have more need for parking in areas, or if this year is just a one-off. That's a crazy year. I mean, it is, but how much is it affecting what we need? You know,
So to that point, was usage way up this year versus last year at Lake Avalon? The park, the swimming area?
The swimming area, no, not necessarily, because we restricted the number of people that could be there, and it's not really my area, and I don't know how many people the staff had to turn away because they were at capacity, but the lake was full of people for sure, as was all the lakes. So.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tom and Mr. Rick.
Okay, with that, I think that pretty much does the budget recommendations. We've already talked about the Lake Norwood fish cleaning station. Paul Bickford has informed me that he has loved doing the secretary's job, but he would like a replacement beginning in January of 2021. Paul has done this now for several years, and want to thank him for his service. And it is somewhat of a tough job because you have to take notes during the meeting, and sometimes I think he goes back and watches the video to make sure he captures everything. So looking to the group for somebody to volunteer to be secretary beginning in January of 2021. Don't all volunteer at once. It doesn't have to be decided today, but we are looking for a volunteer. So, Paul, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
The reason why I'm taking over additional responsibilities in another organization, therefore, I really need to take a little breather.
Okay. And you've done a phenomenal job, so we thank you for doing that.
No, thank you.
And I think the last person who had the job before you is moved away. So,
Well, I'll stay around and cause as much trouble as I can.
right, we appreciate it. So anyway, if anybody wants to step up for that, please contact me between now and the end of the year, and we'll gladly put you in that position. Anything else on the wake boat test from yesterday that we need to discuss? Or I know Rick pretty much talked about that. I don't think there's anything else. We're going to wait. We'll probably discuss it in detail next month, correct? Okay. Tammy, do we have any guests in the lobby that need to make an appearance?
There were none to my knowledge, ma'am.
I would like to make one comment. Rick, you and your staff, I was amazed at how much effort you went to and the staff went to yesterday at the study. It was tremendous, and I really appreciate it, and thank your staff force, because I know everybody put in a lot of time and a lot of extra time to get that done. So,
well,
thank
we thank you for that, and thanks for getting the word out. And I'm happy to see we had as big a crowd as we did from interested people.
Okay, so deep dive on that next month, and hopefully we'll get some good insights. I've got a message here from Dave Rutan, and he is a Loch Lomond resident, and he shared this with Rick Eccles, and Rick has forwarded to me, and we had his permission to share his concerns. So he and his wife were kayaking on the lake and paddling toward the marina and saw some trash in the water. And on the way back, they tried to pick it up, and I guess they're having an issue with limb lines and jug lines, which are used for catfishing, being left in the lake and not properly maintained. In one case, there was a turtle that was obviously hooked and needed to be, the hook needed to be removed in order for the turtle to survive, and I think they tried to do that. And in another case, I think Rick said they actually picked up one of the rangers picked up a limb line or a jug one day and had a catfish on it that had obviously been there for longer than overnight. And so one of the issues, this guy is totally, Rick has asked that we ban or we prohibit jug line and limb line fishing on the lakes in Bella Vista. Saying that it's in his...
Dave said that.
Dave said that. Dave, not Rick, I'm sorry, Dave. So, his argument is that it's not the most, what's the word I'm looking for, sportsman-like way to catch fish, although it is a tradition in Arkansas that people do use limb lines and use jug lines to catch catfish. So, just wanted to make the committee aware of this resident's concern. And again, I don't think it's anything that we can resolve today, but I would ask that keep that in mind as we move forward. It may be something that we need to consider at some point. The state provides us with catfish, and I know we buy fish from the state. And if we required catfish to be caught on a rod and reel, the fish would probably go a little bit further. I know people who use jug lines sometimes and catch a lot of fish. And so it's just, this resident is bringing up the issue and just wanted to make you aware of it. And Ross?
Yeah, thank you. So I honestly didn't know what they were, but I was seeing probably anywhere from 6 to 12 out there at any given time. I don't know what it would take to get this thing moving, what you may need to do it, but I would be very supportive of trying to eliminate that. I mean, some traditions, good idea to come to an end, and I would agree with Dave. I'm not sure who he is, but I notice a ton of these things by us.
Yeah. So the process for getting any kind of activity like this, the regulation changed, is the POA, either our committee or the board, would need to petition the city council to pass an ordinance against whatever activity we're trying to ban. And then at that point, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission would recognize that and enforce a law against the activity. They only recognize municipalities that want to create special regulations. They don't recognize business entities, which I guess is what we are with the POA. So there's two ways to go about it. We could petition for a specific rule change with the city, or we could ask that the city grant a blanket ordinance that would allow the POA to set rules for the lakes. That's the two ways to go about it.
So I'd be willing to take point on this if you guys are open to something like this.
Go ahead, Rick.
What, can we put it on the agenda for discussion, because we got to recognize both sides, so just.
Sure.
And I've talked about it with Rick myself because of some questions I had, and I think we currently have a rule, don't we, that they're only allowed overnight, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
That is correct, and that is the state rule, only from sunset to sunrise. And it's going to take a person some time to collect all of them. So
yes,
but definitely they need to be off before recreational activity starts. The limb lines hanging from trees probably present the biggest safety issue. But the jugs have to come in. John, is John still there? That is a sunset to sunrise law, correct, John?
I don't believe so. Maybe the limb lines are that way.
I know one is and one isn't, and now I'm having a mental block.
I thought I read it in our rules, but I think it.
You did.
Just for purpose of discussion to move it on, why don't we put it on the future agenda so the committee can discuss the merits and of continuing it, and if we would want to limit it or just remove it as an opportunity.
So
It seems like we had a speaker come in a few months ago and they were requesting that we allow it 24 hours. So I
Yes.
think it is a sunset to sunrise.
But
Yes.
we can't impose our own rules on on a fishing activity.
Right, I think that's what we told him, it was a state
Yes.
regulation.
Unless we go the route of asking the city to come on board with us.
So there are two issues, and Rick, you're right. We're not going to resolve the issue today, and that's why I ask everybody to think about it. We can put it on a future agenda. And I guess this is a two-part issue because inherent in trying to get some of these things changed, we do need either a blanket ordinance passed by the city, or they need to approve each one of these individually. And I guess if we did manage to get a blanket ordinance passed and the city agreed to that, there's pros and cons to everything. And so we'd have to assure the residents for sure that the POA is in control of the lakes and not the city, although the city, in some cases, based on state law, has the ultimate authority. And so this is a long-term process. It's not going to be resolved today, but we wanted to read Dave's comments and give us time to discuss them at a future date. So, any other comments on that?
I just found it on our website, and it says jug fishing is limited to hours of darkness only.
Yeah, I was about to clarify that as well. So I'm looking at the AGFC regulations. I pulled down the rule book. And so the jugs specifically state in AGFC regulation that they can be unattended only sunset to sunrise. But trot lines and limb lines don't have that language in the regulation.
Well, I'm one of those jug fishermen, and the problem with finding them on the lake is that the fish run off with the jugs, and they hide them in the piles of brush around the lake, and sometimes it takes several hours after daylight to find them.
And obviously, sometimes they don't get found at all.
Yes, that's true.
But it's not a pleasant sight for someone else to come upon.
It probably makes sense for that discussion to cover any type of fishing that's not rod and reel, whether it's jugs or trot lines or limb lines, and look at what's allowed and what's not and what needs to change.
Would agree. Okay, I don't have anything else on the agenda. Does anybody else have any other things we need to talk about today?
October 14th will be the next meeting, second Wednesday of October.
Please make sure that if you haven't already done so, to turn in your volunteer hours to Paul. And please also consider my earlier request about someone being a secretary for next year, 2021. If there's nothing else, I can adjourn the meeting. Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns? Anybody going once, going twice? Meeting adjourned.